these days I don't know what Republicans are thinking, but the person who's going to help me figure that out is former Congressman from Oklahoma, Mickey Edwards. If ever there was a Republican and a conservative, Congressman Edwards is it. He was national chairman of the American Conservative Union, founding trustee of the Heritage Foundation, proud member of the Reagan Revolution, and a member of Congress for 16 years as a Republican. Congressman Edwards, welcome back to the Young Turks.
Thank you. Glad to be back with you.
All right. Now, you've written a book, Congressman Edwards, saying, Reclaiming Conservatism, How a Great American Political Movement Got Lost and How it Could Find Its Way Back. Before we figure out how it got lost and how it could find its way back, let's figure out what it is.
Yeah, well, figuring out what it is today probably is going to be tough for both of us. I can tell you what it was, and let me go from there. Originally, by originally I mean, when the Goldwater and then Reagan coming out of Goldwater, when this started, conservatism was based on the Constitution. It was based on the idea of limited government, constraint, separation of powers, keeping a check on the president, protecting American liberties. Now, what is it now? I mean, it's the religious right, trying to have the government dictate how people think. It's the neocons, trying to go to war everywhere they can. It's a president who says, I don't have to obey the law, and it's government secrecy, and it's all the things that, to be honest, I mean, I know you're a lefty, but the fact is that if somebody like Lyndon Johnson had done the things this president is doing, conservatives would have been marching in the streets in protest. So that's why I say in my book that, this movement that started out to preserve the Constitution and to defend civil liberties has now become maybe the worst enemy of the Constitution, and it bothers me a lot.
Well, Congressman Edwards, I completely agree with you, but except for the part where you said I'm a lefty.
Yeah, okay, well, maybe you're not. Who knows? I don't know what a Young Turk is.
Well, that's fair enough. And not that there's anything wrong with being a lefty. God bless the lefties of the world. But, I had a conversation with Michael Hirsch of Newsweek yesterday. We had lunch, and then at the end, he says, you know what, Jake, it turns out you're a centrist. I'm like, really?
Well, you know what? If you're a centrist, you're a rare breed because there aren't many left.
Yeah, I agree with that. But let me set this up for you because okay. I come from a similar place, except you have 1,000 more accomplishments than I do, as you do, because I was a former Republican and I grew up in the Northeast, and I was a Tom Kean, type of Republican, and I thought that we protected the Constitution and we cared about it, and we were careful about foreign entanglements, and we wanted a smaller government.
Right.
And then the party seemed to have run away from me, as it did from you. And now looking back at it, given the state of the party as you described it, and as I see it, is there any way that they could get back Republicans like me, or former Republicans like me, or people who in the Northeast? And remember, New Jersey used to be a split state.
Yeah.
People who are saying, well, I can't go anywhere near these guys in this state. Is there really a way back?
There is, I think. One reason the book's called Reclaiming Conservatism, instead of saying lay out some brand new vision, is that what I'm talking about is going back and looking at some of the very specific things that have happened. For example, one of the Ronald Reagan was quoted by every Republican running for president this year. And one of the quotes that is always used is that Reagan said the government is not the solution, government's the problem. Well, in my book, I use the whole quote, and he said, in the current circumstance, meaning the Carter administration, government's not the solution, government's the problem. But then he went on at some length to say, we're not anti-government. We're for a government that stands with you, that creates opportunity. And so all of these people running around saying that to be a conservative or to be like Reagan means you're anti-government don't understand a thing about what Ronald Reagan or Barry Goldwater believed. Then you take the neocons.
Can I interrupt for a second?
Sure.
Congressman?
Yeah.
That's a really good point. And it's also, and they're also hypocritical about it. Because current day Republicans are zealots. And they say, no government, laissez-faire, and we don't want any government involved. And then it turns out when Bear Stearns needs government help and government intervention, They go, oh, no, wait a minute. Now we need the government. Well,
yeah,
you didn't want
you're right. I mean, that's a part of going back. What we used to be for is free enterprise.
Exactly.
Not protecting corporate America, but free enterprise. But I mentioned before the neocons. One of the things that we used to believe in as conservatives was the idea of peace through strength. Now, it drove liberals crazy that we were willing to spend so much money on national defense, but we did not do it in order to go invade countries. We did it for the purpose of avoiding war, of preventing war. The conservatives wanted to keep the peace, and that's why, and our strategy was, maybe not everybody agreed, but our strategy was, if you're strong enough, you can keep people from attacking you. So that's been turned around from peace through strength, to let's exert our military force everywhere. And then one of the examples I use, you said, can we go back? Newt Gingrich, when he was the speaker, really did a lot to put us in the box we're in, because he changed the system where instead of Republicans concentrating on policy and principle and the Constitution, all they concentrated about under Gingrich was how to defeat Democrats. Well, when you do that and you start thinking of your job solely as defeating the other party, then what happens? You start to look at a president when he's in the same party as, not as the head of another branch of government that you're supposed to be keeping a check on. You see the president as your quarterback, and your job is to help your quarterback. So it totally, it's now like a parliamentary system, and the Republicans in Congress with a Republican president think it's their job, to be part of his staff instead of being a separate and equal branch of government. So all of this has gone wrong.
Congressman Edwards, I agree with your assessment 100%, disagree 0%.
Okay.
But when it comes to your hope, the audacity of hope that you have, that you can regain the Republican Party.
By the way, those words are not in my book.
They come from Reverend Jeremiah Wright, so you don't, hey, be careful, right? You don't want them anywhere near you. I don't share your enthusiasm. And let me get to why. And by the way, former Congressman Mickey Edwards was not only chairman of the House Republican Policy Committee, but he was one of the founding trustees of the Heritage Foundation. So, I mean, you were at the root of how conservatism used to be. But now the current Heritage Foundation, I feel, would laugh you out of the room. They'd say, oh, this guy's doesn't bow his head to the president. He's not authoritarian. The conservative bloggers would rip you apart.
Well, guess what? I'm going to have to get back to you and let you know, because I'm going to be speaking at Heritage, and I called them up and I said, look, I was one of your three founders. I think you guys are totally off base. You've forgotten everything that we originally stood for. And I want to come in there and I want to tell you where you've gone wrong. So I'll see whether they let me out alive. So.
I don't see the hope, because what I see, Congressman Edwards, is that the Republican Party is heading off a cliff, and they're going to fall off that cliff, and when they do, and that could be in 2008. It could be even worse going forward. Who knows? It depends on how they correct themselves. The question is, how do they go to correct themselves? Are they going to go – because right now the only policy prescriptions being forward by either congressional representatives, the John Boehners of the world, or the Mitch McConnells of the world, or by the bloggers or the so-called thinkers on the right, all appear to be saying, no, we've gone too far towards the morning. We got to go even further right.
Yeah, I know. Well, sometimes what has to happen, and I don't want to say this. I've been a Republican activist, my whole life, but sometimes you just have to have your head handed to you. I mean, sometimes you just have to take a pretty good beating to force yourself to sit down and say, wait a minute, we better rethink this. Where did we go wrong? Because at one point, most people in this country thought of themselves as more likely to be Republican, or certainly more conservative than liberal. And today, Republicans and conservatives have basically lost their credibility. And it's because, they have been supporters of government secrecy, of presidents saying they don't have to obey the law, basically the Constitution doesn't matter anymore. And I think the public has had it with them.
So, are there any Republican leaders that you could point to here that could lead the way back, however long it takes, after the crash and fall and burn?
Well, I think that, well, first of all, you pictured me as optimistic. I don't know if I'm optimistic, but I do know that you can't just give up, because you've got to have at least one political party, and ideally two, who are recognizing the limits of government that the Constitution requires, and protection of civil liberties. But there may not be at the running for president level, and there may not be, even at the senior levels of Congress, but there are a lot of young Republicans and young conservatives, and by young I mean people in state legislatures, people who are holding statewide office in the various states who are, not in Congress, but there are people out there who are starting to speak up, and I know that my book, my book is now listed as one of the top political books on Amazon. And it's because I'm getting feedback from so many people saying, thankfully somebody is saying what we've been thinking. And I believe there are a lot of Republicans out there who are starting to think the same way I am, the way you said, you are. And so I'm not sure. I don't know. Maybe optimistic or rosy optimism is exaggerating where I am, but I'm not going to give up. We can't just let the Constitution be ignored and trashed and have a bigger, more powerful, more secretive government. So we have to fight back.
The book that Congressman Edwards is referring to, of course, is Reclaiming Conservatism: How a Great American Political Movement Got Lost and How It Can Find Its Way Back. We have a link up to it on our website, theyoungturks.com, where you could find that book. Let me ask you a different question, Congressman Edwards.
Sure.
Why not just become a Democrat? Or an independent? Because right now, look, I have great disdain for the Democratic Party because I think they've been incredibly weak in fighting back against the Bush administration. So I'm not sure I'd even call myself a Democrat, but I certainly wouldn't come anywhere near calling myself a Republican. So I understand you're, have been part of the Republican Party for so long, but if you're a young person coming up now, what would be the incentive in calling yourself a Republican? Why not call yourself an independent and say, and probably given your principles and my principles, vote with the Democratic Party 8 or 9 times out of 10?
Well, there's two different answers. One is about why I don't become a Democrat. I would like to think that the Democrats are in fact standing for what I think the Republicans ought to stand for. I heard Nancy Pelosi, who I know well and served with, I heard her on the radio, and she was saying that her job as the Speaker of the House is to make sure there's a Democratic majority in Congress. And I wanted to yell at my radio and just say, no, Nancy, your job is to lead the legislative branch of government. So, who knows, if it's only about a policy difference, maybe then there will be a Democratic president and a Democratic Congress, and the Congress would just, be acquiescent. So I don't know. I have to wait and see whether, in fact, they're serious about standing up and for the constitutional system. As for why not to be an independent, to some extent, I probably am somewhat independent. I'm a registered Republican, but I care a lot less about whether Republicans win than about whether the constitutional principles win. And in the year 2000, I was a foreign policy advisor to the Bush campaign. In the year 2004, I didn't even vote for Bush. I just sat it out. So, to some extent, I am more independent now. I'm certainly not a lockstep Republican, but we've grown up in a system now for a long time where in order to have a chance to affect governance, it has to be through the Democratic or Republican parties. Independents, even independents with a lot of money, have gotten into, races, and they don't go anywhere. Very seldom can any independent win an election or have any real influence on government. So you have to do it through the parties.
No, I understand that, and I don't mean to find independent candidates, but just be, independent in general.
Well, that actually, by the way, let me interrupt. That, I have 8 points at the end of the book about how you reclaim conservatism. That was one of the 8 points. Declare independence from the Republican Party. You may be a registered Republican, but stand for the principles. And if that means you're crosswise with the party, then you're crosswise with the party.
Right, and I'm often crosswise with the Democratic Party because I care. I don't care if they win. I care about the issues. So
me too.
But given where the current parties stand, if you had to vote today between Barack Obama and John McCain, who would you vote for?
I'm not sure. My guess is I like a lot of what Obama says. I looked at the New York Times editorial that basically said, it was all air like cotton candy. I have to see the National Journal, which is certainly nonpartisan, totally nonpartisan, said he was the most liberal member of the Senate. Well, I'm still more conservative. I'm a libertarian conservative, but I'm not a liberal. So probably closer to Hillary than to Obama.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's a shame because she's already lost. But
yeah, it looks like it, doesn't it?
Yes. But remember, by the way, the National Journal says that every single presidential candidate on the Democratic side is the most liberal senator in the Senate. I mean, they have
must be a tie.
Yeah, I mean, they have a long history of doing that. So
yeah.
I question those rankings to say the least.
Well, you may be right. I mean,
and
I've
what does
always
it
thought
mean
of
to be a liberal these days, anyway? I mean, like a liberal these days is pretty close to a conservative in the old days, at least constitutionally speaking.
You know what? People like Rush Limbaugh and Ann Coulter and Sean Hannity and people like that do say when somebody stands up for protection of civil rights, the Bill of Rights, they're accused of being liberals. Well, no. I mean, was Ronald Reagan a liberal? Was Barry Goldwater a liberal? Was James Madison a liberal? I mean, it used to be that those were things conservatives believed in, is protecting individual liberty. So, the people now, you're referring to the Limbaughs and all that, they don't have a clue. They don't have a clue. They wouldn't know a conservative if it were in their shoes.
Right, and although one part I would disagree with you is I would probably call James Madison a liberal. Yeah, I mean he.
Okay. Now see, that's interesting. You probably would. I'd call him a conservative, and that's where we come together in terms of what I think a conservative should be. Certainly not what a Newt Gingrich or a Tom DeLay or or Rush Limbaugh would think, but to me, that's what a conservative is all about.
And you're right, Congressman Edwards. It's a sad day when the Rush Limbaughs of the world think that being conservative or being a Republican means being against the Constitution. That's a terrible sign. All right, Congressman Edwards, the book is Reclaiming Conservatism. Everybody check it out. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Glad to do it.